Good morning. So I was on Pros about 2 days ago, and I ran across this writer named Midnight Ink, or that was the username. That was his username, Midnight Ink. And I noticed right away how balanced this writer is. I noticed the how gentle this writer is, yet the other way as well. And I noticed that, I think poetry, it takes a lot of guts, a lot of heart to write, to do it right. You know what I mean? And so for me, when I write, like when I write something, especially a poem, I'll see like a glob of color, right? And I'll like vomit that out and it'll be like malleable for a whole poem. And in rare cases for me, sometimes a whole book, a short story often, but here's an example. I was doing dishes one day and I saw this like reddish orange, orangish red glob in front of me. And it started to have like veins of black through it. And I sat down and that became The Velocity of Ink, a whole novel. And it was but reading this writer and it kind of called me back to Area Man, who I've always said is one of my favorite poets, living or dead across all remembered time. It's there's an honesty there. And I remember being like, I'm really hungover today, and I did a video yesterday on the tail of the video I did featuring some new blood on Prose, Alyce, and who I assume is a younger writer. And I thought about this. I thought about, when I was coming up, I didn't have anything like Prose, and I didn't have, not even just Prose, like I had nobody really supporting my drive to be a writer, well, I already was one, but to become published, to make a living off of it, to where I didn't have to fucking go to those jobs and those factories and those tear off those roofs or know almost die in Alaskan waters to get a paycheck cut to me. And I didn't want to do the white collar. I didn't want to be into business. I didn't want to do anything but write. But that's not reality. You have to fucking pay your bills. You have to live. So, uh, for me, when we first started Prose, we were going to be like the Rolling Stone of the 70s, just super, just fucking X-rated content on the level of writing X-rated content. And I don't mean X-rated like erotica. I mean like just adult shit, like stuff you would read from the 60s, you know, the lit mags, the chapbooks. And then as I have watched this app grow, I realized there's room for all of it, and so I got some feedback regarding some videos I've done from a few people who read my stuff and who watch the channel and who are on Prose. And my response, I'm not going to get into all that, but my response was, we're here for the entirety of the writing world. And if I were like 28, 25, hell, 35, and something like Prose existed back then that could like, boost me over the fence, at least into a world where I had the confidence to explore just that weird and fucking magical, beautiful, strange, crazy, chaotic place where the mind of a writer exists. And so I think that for me, prose has become that too, but it goes the other way. So one of my favorite expressions is people don't change, they just become more like themselves, right? You ever had a friend who came into a bunch of money and became a super dick, right? Well, that friend was always a super dick, just so you know. And I think that with me when I drink, I have two modes, really happy or really pissed off, right? For some reason, whiskey has the latter effect and tequila has the former. I get happy when I drink tequila, and I'm not a big drinker, by the way. But yesterday, I sat here and I read a bunch of poems from Midnight Ink and then Area Man. And I was just I watched it today. I loaded it to YouTube and I was going to publish it. And I woke up this morning and it was just such bad form. You guys, it was like, it's so good to read literature again, glug, glug, glug. And this is the best fucking site. And all, it was just like really bad. So I'm going to spare you that. And I mean, I thought about just punishing myself and publishing it, but I looked really, really fucking dumb. So it made me realize that one of my biggest strengths is how much I kind of hate myself, and I think a lot of writers have that. And so with prose, with the writers I'm going to feature today, I want to say here that there's a balance I strive for as a writer, and that balance is uh, I think good and evil, right? And I remember November in Seattle one time. It was Thanksgiving, and I had a buddy I hung out with, this crazy like Pennsylvania writer, and this is like 1995, I think, 94, 95, 96, maybe, I forget, but it was Thanksgiving, and we were walking down the street on Capitol Hill. Well, only street on the main street on Capitol Hill in Seattle. This is back in when that place was alive and fun, before it became what that whole fucking city became, right? Still beautiful, but I'm going to stop there. But so when we were walking, we were fairly altered, right? But I looked around and I was like, man, there's really nobody walking the streets except for like, homeless people or, just drunks vomiting and throwing up in corners, or like store owners locking up to get home. And I said, man, this is like kind of beautifully sad. And while neither one of us were, or probably still are not, religious, he said something so profound to me that stuck with me. And he said, he looked forward, we were walking, and he goes, getting back to what God taught him. And I thought about that. And so to wrap up this intro, I'm sorry I rambled, or I'm not sorry, fuck it. I have shit on my mind today. So, uh, the, when I read Midnight Ink, and then I chased it with Area Man, I thought to myself, this is a balance I like in writing. Yesterday was it was just such a fun time to read these two beautiful, beautiful writers. And I want to come back today and revisit that, only sober, right? Like not even hair of the dog. I thought about it, but I'll stick with coffee today. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video with Midnight Ink and Area Man. A wolf, a drifter with the wind, no way out. I know from all the places to die, my life shouldn't end in the alley. At least that's my wish. A hopeless wish that doesn't have a guaranteed return on investment. This is my story. I am an impulsive gambler in life, never thinking ahead first or even using my head for once. I gambled all I had on a card game. After I lost everything, I began borrowing money, small loans that mounted to bigger debts that I couldn't afford to pay back. I knew there was no end to this habit, but I kept going deep into the belly of the beast and never stopped to look back or manage to find a way out. Now, my neck under a sharp knife, my heart rapidly beating, and fingers trembling before they're cut off one by one. It's too late to think about the solution, for I drained all the resources I ever had, including friends and family. I'm too deep and have no way out this time around, just waiting for my fate in the dark alley. And this is, thanks for the tag, man. This is, from our challenge of the week. It's nice. Nicely done. Pounds of flesh. My mind wanders often. It delves into the abyss of eternity, questioning and wondering about its own mortality, for it's trying to discern what's waiting on the other end of the long tunnel, so it can free itself from the genie of smokes and the euphoric Pandora box chained within relentlessly fighting to expose the older man who is hiding under the mask and white lies, who truly yearns to free the lost younger boy, who's trapped beneath the pounds of flesh that's beating nonstop, yet non-responsive to his demands, like an ear foreign to a deafening sound. Fire and water. Heartbreak is like a dagger plunged into its rib cages and pulsating with aches. One heart is hanging on a thin thread of longing and dreams it won't ever have, like a fire kissing water. Mirage addiction. Addiction of you is a mirage of foggy shadows, a whisper of night wind, a taste of first kiss, the fragrance of red rose, a tempered summer heat, a blizzard flare of wildfire that burns a forest, slithering like a snake. I have a vague recollection of writing this piece. Yeah, cheers, buddy. I mean, just throw a rock in anywhere on this profile and it's going to land on something beautiful. Wildflowers in a row, reminder of wilting age, how tender life grows. Nice. Midnight ink. Follow Midnight ink. And here's Area Man. Wizened. I don't know what better is. I, once in a while, know the differences are supposed to be between things, but nowadays, that too has become a smudge somewhere along the lines of a grunt and a symphony. The nature of your emergency. Down on the corner, you are the inspiration behind bomb-sniffing dogs, the rapid expansion of neurobiological SWAT technology, global, meditative crisis hotlines, and a poster boy warning for the others to toe the line or else. Two tribes, one radio, a pile of machetes, a prosthetist's wet dream on a dictator's whim. There is evil in this world. I lied. Bacardi 5150. Why the hell can't anybody ever understand what I'm talking about? He asked nobody worth mentioning as he microwaved a shot of rum, fried another slice of bologna, and stared at the walls, muttering, "Someday they'll see." One for the dying. I've been trying like hell to write a poem about you for quite some time, being that your liver is failing and you'll be dead soon. But all I could think to write is what I can't say. I'm glad I'm not you, and I hope you don't live to read this. Fuck yes. You're folding it wrong. Shuffle one way, then back opposite toward the exit, which is the same. Fast to feast, die to live. Through the heart, hello to heights, never to look back to you. Seek and destroy. Sometimes when something is sick and strays too far away from God, it has to be destroyed. You understand that, don't you? The icing on the headstone is we, dumb us, believing that ours is the way through having heard the good news. I myself can't wait to be swept away by a tidal wave of blood and, God willing, erased from the book of life. Ditto. I know what it's like to sit in dark rooms for too many nights, for too many reasons, conflicted. I know what it's like to find the courage to drop the hammer and fuck that up too. I know what it's like to be tormented by petty gods, with days of horror and beautiful dreams. I know what it's like to be you. And that's going to wrap today. Thank you guys for being here and listening, if you're still here, and I really appreciate it. And if you're on thepros.com, thank you for being there too. Hope your day is good. Hope you write, and if you do write, put it on prose. Spill the blood. All right, take good care.